This episode did a couple of things that really impressed me because the first 6 minutes or so of this episode, it's just kind of basic slice of life stuff, nothing really to write home about. But after that, it kicks into such a high gear that it actually becomes, I think, one of the more memorable assassin episodes, from the addiction storyline, seeing what this drug on the market is doing to just, a normal mother who then becomes someone, like, not even being able to be recognized, to the switching of opinions of someone like Lugh, who, back in his first life, was just a tool that was used, if told to kill, would kill without a second thought, wouldn't think afterwards. But because he's now a person, just because he's given an order of who to kill, he's not just going to do it because he's ordered to, he's going to decide who lives and dies based on his own morals. And it's interesting because even before we see the wife grieving for her husband after he was sniped from a distance, it was very clear that they were trying to paint him not in that typical generic formula of he's a drug slumlord, he's preying on those who are less fortunate than themselves. The little money they have are now being spent on this drug that makes him feel good in the moment, but then becomes just an addict afterwards. You see him very much not using his wife, but genuinely caring for her, and you see how happy he makes her. And it's not just clearly the jewelry and things that they can now afford, it's like there's a genuine relationship. And even before it was clear like she would be grieving upon that death, I thought it was a great touch to show Lugh visibly recognizing that when he takes a life, even though he can see why he's doing it, for the loved ones, they're not going to see it as, oh, we killed a drug lord. They're going to look at it as, my husband just got murdered and my entire world was just shattered. I'm never going to be able to fill that void in my heart. And I really haven't seen an anime do exactly that, because you don't get to see an assassin character portrayed like this. Because we saw at the first episode, he was literally an emotionless robot who, if ordered to kill, if ordered to die, he would do it and he wouldn't think anything of it. But now, because he's choosing it himself, the fact that he actually, he felt grief. It's not that he feels bad that he killed a bad person, but he feels bad and concerned about, someone who was innocent in all that and how she had to see that. And I think it was a great touch to show Tar just kind of hug him there and just embrace him, because it is a completely new lifestyle. He's not gonna forgive what this man's done. He's not gonna, stop doing what he's doing. He knows there's certain people who need to be taken out, but he's not going to forget those and how he feels. And then that's really the first moment that Lugh as a character has been able to feel something after a kill, because he chose to do it and he's taking on the burden that the pain comes with. Of course, after so many assassinations, there's the entire possibility that he'll choose not to be in that lifestyle. And if that happens, then he'll probably have to take on a new identity to escape the life that he's kind of now forced in. But it's a great touch to really show how far he's come as a character compared to where his mature mindset was at in the first episode. It doesn't abandon anything, but it just plays into what has been his life, being raised by parents who genuinely care about him. The other point in this episode that I actually really enjoyed is the idea of Maha just really confronting Lugh about the whole will they, won't they, because, we know who he cares for, and that is Dia. That's who he wants to marry, and that's who his heart is set on. But the fact that Maha, of all characters, comes out and says, characters like Tar, or even her, they don't have any problems being second or third in his heart. You can use them for pleasure, you can use them as a secondary wife, or just a simple mistress. You're a noble in a world where poly relationships, whether it's one and done disposed deals or an ongoing mistress, it's something that no one's gonna bat an eye at, because he's rich, he's noble, he's powerful. But most importantly, those two specifically, they just want to be close to him, whether it's physical or emotional or both. And it was very interesting because it's very clear, I think, that it probably will end up being a poly relationship between the central three girls. But it's interesting how bluntly they threw it in his face, or even acknowledging that, once Lugh's body started getting a little more active, he started visiting brothels when, as it was pointed out, you literally could have used Tar and she wouldn't have been upset in the slightest. I mean, she was getting flustered at the idea of bearing his babies before getting embarrassed, right? And it's interesting because he's trying to brush it off as I'm treating it as family, you guys are family, and they're saying, yeah, I mean, it's different when we're younger, but now we're older and we know what we want and we're going to take what we want. I'm like, damn, they are being very forward But that's another thing I kind of appreciate about this show, because even in general society, poly relationships aren't like something that's 1 in a million anymore. But especially in older time periods with nobles, having their main wife that, of course, in the public, they're nice and noble, but behind closed doors, they have a dozen different mistresses and things like that. It's very clear that it's not something that's going to be frowned upon. So the fact that the world's finest assassin just bluntly said it, I mean, I'm kind of glad, I gotta be completely honest. So many times you get people like rooting for their best girl or this or that, or saying, oh, it can only be one. And the characters here are saying, no, I can be as many as you want. Just, pick and choose who's going to be number 1 in your heart. Just, have some time for number 2 and 3. And I'm like, hot damn. I just think this show has done a really good job at playing up the setting that they're in terms of how assassinations work, the relationships and how they blossom, the hierarchy of what a noble man can do and don't, to then, remaining to be true to what his character started out as this mature man who was simply a tool for an assassin organization. I think there might be potentially some people who say, why did he feel anything? Because you typically see that anytime a character feels anything in an anime. That's what made that kill so great. It's not that, you felt bad necessarily for that man. You felt bad for the relationship that was crushed. It's not that Lugh is the reason it failed. I mean, even had he not killed it, eventually the drug empire will always hurt those close to you. It's a story as long as time itself, right? But it's heartbreaking to see that wife who was innocent and all that, and how she, genuinely had a good connection with her husband. And unfortunately, because of the decisions he made, it's different when you're hurting yourself with drugs. It's another when you're hurting others and getting those in poverty addicted and then, destroying families. I mean, it's better to break up a family now than have hundreds, if not thousands, be crushed because of this man's greed. And that was very, very well done, in my opinion. I mean, we also did get another taste of what the goddess was up to in this episode. And I think the idea of, a paparazzi and, the lives that he's ruined, it's kind of a genius idea. The fact that, you send someone who can, ruin someone's life with tabloids, and he was going to get purposely hit by the cart and then paint the hero as this horrible person. And it kind of seems like instead of just getting hit by the cart, he got killed by the horse-drawn carriage. And I'm like, you know what? I'm appreciating it. You don't abuse the goddess, but you're keeping her relevant, whether it's for one-off funny gags or just the thought in the back of your mind, should you trust her when it comes to Lugh and her relationship. But some great shit, though. I really, really enjoy that little touch that gets added every now and again. Overall, I leave another episode quite impressed. Only a few episodes left, and hopefully we'll get a confirmation of another core, because honestly, this has been one of the biggest surprises of the fall 2021 season for me. But let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. Since next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.